Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Bindu and I go by Bindu Renee on here. It's also my Instagram handle if you want to follow me on there. But yeah, today is the long awaited, I guess long put off video of my journey to getting into PA school, since, you know, eventually I will be starting and taking you along my journey of getting through PA school, which I already have faith that it's gonna happen. I'm gonna get through it. But I wanted just to share like my testimony leading into getting accepted. Now, I'm going to share like my full story of how I got to the point, but also this kind of ties into my relationship and walk with God, and really how I became to get to know God, or try to even want to get closer to God and walk with him. And there's a lot of faith tied into this, as well as other like practical things. Sorry, I'm just gonna grab my phone. I made some points, but not all, so I'm gonna try my best not to make this scattered. Let's take it back to coming into college. All right, coming into college, I was a nursing major, and I thought that I wanted to be eventually a nurse practitioner. And yeah, so I thought I wanted to be a nurse practitioner, and so I majored in nursing, taking like science classes. It was hard, and there would just be times where there's like so many layers to this, y'all, like it's a lot. So it was hard, and there would be times where like I would literally be like failing a class, and I would go from like failing a class to eventually being able to pass it, because when I realized I was failing and the semester was coming to an end, I would like work my butt off and end up with like a C or B when I could have had an A if I was like doing it from the beginning. I would do that with a lot. And then there was also some science classes that I did not pass and had to retake. And I ended up changing my major to psychology, because like the school that I went to, the way that their program worked, it was like, and it may be like this in a lot of programs, like you applied for the nursing program, I guess, your sophomore year for your junior year or something like that. And like if you didn't get in or have like your prereqs or like whatever that time, you would have to wait until the next year to do to apply. And in my mind, I was like, I'm graduating college. I don't know what this is. I was like, I'm graduating college in 4 years. I don't care. So we're gonna switch, and we are going to, after we graduate, do an accelerated nursing program, become a nurse, and then go to school to be a nurse practitioner. Let me just add in, it doesn't matter how long it takes you to graduate college. Like that was not a good reason at all. But looking back, it happened for a reason, and God works all things out for his good. So yeah, graduated college, and like while I was in college, I was also working. I worked as a nursing assistant. I also worked in like doing retail, like TJ Maxx for a little bit. And sometimes I was working like 2 jobs at a time and working like full-time hours while in school. And not necessarily because like I wanted to, like I was, my parents separated like a long time ago when I was younger. My mom was pretty much like a single mom, and you know, like busting her butt, and so I wasn't about to be back home like calling for, can I have money for this and that or whatever. So I had to work. And so I did that. And let me also add, so I worked as a nursing assistant because when I was in high school, I got my nursing assistant certification through my high school, which worked out. And at that time, like I took like, sorry, just going back, I took like a medical careers class in high school. And so I was exposed to different like careers and, you know, volunteering like in a nursing home and things like that. And but I never heard of a PA. I knew what a nurse practitioner was, but I never heard of a PA. So anyways, back to college, changing majors. So I'm like, all right, I graduate with my degree in psychology, and immediately I'm like looking at like options for nursing. Also at this point, don't think I really even had the highest GPA to try to get into a nursing program or that I needed in my prerequisite courses anyway. So I don't know what I thought I was doing. And then it just came this point where like, sorry, also before graduating, this is a lot, y'all. Before graduating, like I said, I did home health, and then I ended up getting an inpatient job in an inpatient psychiatric unit at the hospital. So I was doing that too before graduating, and it was a PRN job, so it was like as needed. But like thankfully at the time, the nursing manager would allow me to work pretty much up to 40 hours to get like paid for 40 hours, but I still didn't have health insurance at that time. But it just worked out because I really stepped on faith, even like not going back home after I graduated. I like stayed in the area of where I graduated from, and got my own apartment by myself and everything, and was struggling like crazy financially, like trying to make ends meet and eat like people really don't know. So yeah, so at that time I ended up because I was working like the PRN job, there ended up being an opening at that job for a full-time position eventually. And it would have been like weekend night shifts, which like definitely, not that I had a life at that point anyway, because I was like working so much. But I was like, okay, this is like an opportunity for me to get like a full-time position. Plus they like love me here. Like, why would they not give me the job? So I applied, and they ended up not going with me because there were all like older females on that shift, and they wanted a male on the shift because of like, sometimes, I don't want to say that this is like a common thing, because I don't want there to be like any like stigma or anything like that, because there are people just like you and me that are in psych units. Like, it could be any reason that somebody ends up there. Like, it's a lot, okay? And it's way more nuanced than what people think. So I just want to be very careful when I say this. They wanted a male on the shift just in case like a patient like acts up or whatever, which there's protocol for that, but just like there were older women, so you just like never know. So they wanted a male nurse, or nurse tech. So they went with that person. So I ended up applying for another job in a hospital in float pool, which, if you don't know, it's kind of just like working on every different unit. Like you literally call like an hour before your shift to figure out like where you're going to be assigned that day. So went over there, and as I was like, you know, sometimes I would be like a sitter, so just sitting one-on-one with the patient, and then sometimes I would be like working the floor, or working that unit for the day. And I learned a lot, and it was exposed to like pretty much every area of medicine. And I also would like see PAs. And so I think also at this point I had a doctor's appointment back home, and that it wasn't my primary care provider. I don't remember what the appointment was for. Maybe it was something going on. And she was a physician assistant. So I was kind of like, okay, this is interesting or whatever, like, because she's pretty much doing the same thing that like a doctor would do. And I know like nurse practitioners are can kind of do this stuff too or whatever. So I think I like asked her about it, but like obviously it's an appointment, so we didn't talk for like hours or whatever. So I think at that point I started researching and figuring out kind of like what a PA was, and I just got more and more intrigued with it, and just like learning that the profession started at the hospital that I currently worked at. And yeah, so then as I'm like in float pool and I'm like I'm running into more like PAs and, you know, stuff like that, I started to just like grow more and more fond of the profession. I think at this point I had not necessarily decided like this is the route I want to go, or maybe at this point I did actually. So I decided like I think this is what I want to do, plus like I don't have to specialize, and being that I get to like every day I'm going to all these different units, not saying that that's what you do as a PA, but I'm saying like because I like will go to a different unit and be like, oh my god, I think I like emergency medicine, oh my god, I think I like cardiology, I think I like neurology. Like, so it was like I don't want to ever have to pick. So there was that. So then at this point I start looking into like, okay, what can I do to become a PA? And this was back in 2016, so a year after I graduated college. So I'm like, okay, what can I do? I started doing like research and realized I needed these prereqs, some that I had not taken, plus some that I did take and had like a CD, whatever in it. And so I had to like retake those as well. So then I started just like doing research and found a pre-health post-bacc program in the area. Ended up applying and going there. And at this point I'm like committed. And so I'm thinking to myself, like, I already have a lot of patient care hours at this point because I've been in CNA since after graduating high school. And so I was good on that. I was able to shadow because while I was like working shifts, I would literally just see a PA and be like, hey, you know, see their names, like whatever, like, hey, you work in this unit, blah, 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 whatever. Can I shadow you? And everyone was always like fine with it. So I would like then schedule a shift to shadow. Then also just like having access to like the internal directory within the hospital that I worked at. I would also like look up who was like different PAs and different specialties, and like I would have their email because I worked in the hospital and would email them. So that also like worked to my benefit. But also, before I go into now with being in this pre-health post-bacc program, let me just say I feel like it was like God, and it was God ordained, the fact that I did not get that job in the inpatient psych unit. Because if I got that job, I would have never gone to float pool, and I would have never been more exposed to those different units and the more of the PA profession, and would have thought that I was still supposed to go maybe the route of nursing. Not that there is anything wrong with it, but I now know that's not what I was meant to do. And so that door closed, and at the time I was kind of like disappointed because it was like, I like inpatient psych and everything, but like, yeah, no. So I'm grateful for that, and that's how I look at things now. When something doesn't work out, like I know there's a reason that it doesn't. I don't know the reason sometimes in the moment, but like I hold on to the faith, and just like knowing that there's going to be something that happens, and I'm going to look back and be like, all right, God, that was why you did that. That was why you didn't do this. So yeah. What else? So then I started this pre-health post-bacc program, taking the classes. I was also still working full-time while doing this. And also prior to starting the program, remember I said like how I was like kind of failing classes, and then in the end I would like start doing better in like all of this. So just like being around other people and doing more research, I realized that I ended up going to get evaluated and learned that I had have ADHD, which I'm not ashamed of. Do I wish things sometimes could be different? Absolutely. But I like now just embrace it and try to like educate other people. And I'm a very intelligent person, and that it doesn't have anything to do with intelligence, but we can get into that in another video. But I learned that was kind of like what was happening, and that like in class sometimes I would miss what someone said because my mind had wandered onto something else, and I'm thinking about a million things, and you know, and I thought maybe I missed something. So getting an iPad like really changed my life, and if Apple ever wants to sponsor me, let me know. But getting an iPad changed my life, and getting like having like Notability was like just amazing. And because with Notability, you get to, as you're like listening to lectures, mark like where the person was talking. You're like recording your professor speaking, and so that was like so helpful for me, because then even if my mind did wander off, like I could go back to that later. And maybe I also was more aware of like just the awareness that I did have ADHD was helpful, because then I realized, okay, sometimes my mind does kind of wander off, and I'm thinking about other things. So I'm able to like catch myself and like reel it back in before it's like 20 minutes later and I missed more than I would have if I didn't like, you know, catch myself. So that was also like a really great revelation as well. That was helpful. And then I eventually started to like do better in science courses within the pre-health post-bacc program. But like it also, with my diagnosis and like taking medication or like whatever, did not change anything overnight. Like I still had, there's a lot I had to learn about myself, and even to this day I still do. But when it just comes to like learning, I think I have an idea of like a better idea of how I learn. And it's just sometimes different than other people, but you know, it is what it is. So that was like something that happened too. What else was it? Oh, let me just also, so I feel like God would just like drop just like little reminders and put me in places with people like before starting the pre-health post-bacc program, I was working one day on a unit, and I was sitting with the patient, and his sister was there. And you know, like in float pool, like it's a slim chance that you end up with seeing the same patient more than once, like especially like in the same week. It happens. I have had patients like more than once, but like back to back is kind of like it's not common. So there was a guy that I was working with, and I was working with his sister. I mean, his sister was there, and I think at the time, I want to say I was like studying for like the GRE, and so like she saw that I was like studying, and there was like a shortage of beds on the unit or something that they wanted him on. So like he was like in the ICU or whatever. So like I was working with him one day, and you know, taking good care of him, everything. And then I think I want to say my shift either the next day or the next week or something happened to be with him again, but it was on like a general medicine floor. So now I saw him in ICU where it didn't make sense for him to even be in ICU working with him then I ended up getting, I think, put with him again on another floor by chance. And the lady was like, you know, she asked like what I was doing, and you know, I told her like what I was studying for, and she was like, oh, you know, what are your plans, blah blah blah. And so I told her like what my plans were of like being a PA, and I told her that the program that I was like applying to, the pre-health post-bacc program, and she was like, oh wow, you know, I went to that school, I donate a lot of money to them, you know, like she was like, what's your name, and you know, I'm gonna like talk to them and stuff. And to this day I have no idea if that like had anything to do with why I did or did not get in. I have absolutely no clue. But even if it did, like that wasn't the case, like it was just also just like confirmation, like, you know, wow, because I ran into this person again. And that, so then, like I said, I'm like working through school, this the pre-health post-bacc program, and I want to say like I finished with a GPA of like a 3.0, which really was not that great, being that I was trying to combat a GPA from with science GP, with science grades of like C's and D's. And like, cause you know, for like the CASPA, the centralized application, they incorporate whatever grades you got. Not just if you retook a class, they incorporate every C, D, F, whatever that you got. And so that didn't really help. And so I left kind of feeling like defeated in a way, because it was like, well, dang, this doesn't really help me. Like, what am I gonna do next? Then I think I was still just like trying to figure out what to do. And so I was working again in the hospital, and I ran into this woman who was visiting a patient, and I'm not going to say who she is or, you know, anything, but she was within the Duke PA program, and this was like maybe 6-7 years ago. So obviously this has nothing to do with me getting into the program, because if that was the case, I would have gotten in back then. But I saw this to say, I like asked her like what she did. I don't remember the reason why that I asked her that. Like, it was just spare the moment. And so I asked her, and she told me like, oh yeah, I like, you know, do this or whatever within the Duke PA program. And I was like, oh really? Like, I was like, I, you know, want to be a PA. And she was like, oh, are you applying to Duke? And I was like, no. No. And she was like, why? And I was like, because it's Duke. Like, and this is me just thinking like, there's absolutely no way that I would get into that program. They created the PA profession. It's Duke. Like, they're known for medicine. Like, I am not smart enough. Absolutely not. So she was like telling me, you know, I think you should. We do look at applicants holistically, and you should come in and you know, I can give you a tour, and let's just talk about like, you know, things and your application and like all this other stuff. And for me, it was also just like another confirmation from God, because it was like, it's just so crazy to think about it, because just planting seeds like, hey, no, you should apply to this program, because I never would even, I was that, when I tell you it was not on my list ever, like I was like, no, there would be no point in me applying to this school. So she did kind of like plant this like new seed where I'm like, okay, maybe I can apply there. Who knows what is going to happen, you know? So then there was like that. And then like, just whenever there were times where I was like just tired and like wanted to like give up, and you know, I would literally be at, this happened at Starbucks, TJ Maxx, I'm trying to think of like other places where I would be like sitting there, or like sitting at Starbucks or something, and I see next to me is a PA student that's like at Duke or whatever, and just kind of like would get to talking, and they would like give their contact information and like, you know, you should apply, you know, reach out, and just, you know, I remember running into a group of PA students at TJ Maxx, and you know, gave me their contact information, places that like I've shadowed, places that I have like volunteer, like clinics and stuff, would like run into people, and it was just like these little reminders that God would like send me to show me like, no, keep going, like this is supposed to be for you. And then whew, what's next? So then yeah, because I finished up the pre-op post-bacc program and was still just like, okay, well darn, that didn't really help me completely. Took the GRE, I forgot how many times at this point, probably like 2 times at that point. I think overall I have taken the GRE 4 times, to be completely honest with you. But so after finishing the program, I think I want to say at this point I did apply, and obviously got into no school, no interview, nothing. But I did take advantage of like, if you don't get in, and you can like reach out to schools to tell you like, what do they think that you could have done better, or like admission coordinators to say like, you know, what could be fixed and all of that. And so I would just like take heed to that, and a lot of it was like your GPA, and we do see like the upward trend in your grades, but we have trouble believing that you could succeed in a master's level program, or a a program that is this academically rigorous. Sorry, my leg feels like it went to sleep. Woo! Okay, so I ended up, but I'm like, okay, what am I about to do now? Because at the end of the day, I can't go do another like pre-health program or like, you know, whatever. Like, I got bills to pay. Anybody got time for this, you know, whatever. Thankfully, at this point, I had been at my job I was in a different department. So I ended up transferring over to working as a clinical research coordinator. Well, a clinical research specialist is what I started off as, and then got promoted to a clinical research coordinator. But I had been within the system for a number of years. And so because I was in the system for a number of years, they had this like tuition reimbursement that I want to say it was like $5,000 a semester, I want to say. So I was like, okay, how am I going to pay for this? So I ended up finding out that like NC State has these like science courses that you can take, and they're like completely online. For some of them, I did have to go in person to take my exams, but it was like you could schedule what time you needed to go in, and they would even have it at like, you know, I think 6 p.m. to work with you if you needed to. And also my job was flexible enough that if I wanted like to take it first thing in the morning, I could take it in the morning and then like go to work. So it worked out. And so I ended up, I think, making like a payment arrangement, like a payment plan, to where I could pay for the courses like over like in certain, I don't know if it was like in 3 months or something like that. So I paid them, but then I also, when I finished the class, I submitted it to my job and they gave me back the money. So I ended up, I think at this point, retaking genetics for the second time. And I think I got a B this time. And I took, I think, microbiology for the third time, because the first time I think I got a D, the second time I think I got a C, and then this time I think I got a B in it. And every time that this would happen, I would still kind of be like, dang, like, no, I need an all A's to prove this and that, and you know, whatever. And would somehow still kind of feel like defeated. And I remember just like one time, I think during this time where after taking those classes, my mentor, who she's not a PA, she's a lot of things. She's goals though. And I can talk about her later. Like, she's a boss, she's a Black woman, and like there's so much that she does, like just with the community and just caring about, like, you know, minorities and health and mental health and, you know, all these things. But so she has like different connections, and so she started like this, it's besides the point. She ended up reaching out to me one day and was like, hey, like, I'm working on, like, I guess she was starting like a new grant with some research, but it had to do with like a specific clinic. And the founder, the person who started the clinic, who passed, has a son who's a PA. And, you know, I was like at this thing, and I was like talking to him about you. And here he is in this email, like, I'm connecting you to him or whatever. And you may be thinking that this has to do with like someone saying, okay, girl, you got in, this is who got you in or whatever. No, this is not the case. But what I'm saying is, like, when I feel like giving up, it'll be like God will randomly just like have someone send me an email, or me running to someone or whatever. And like, cause it was times where I would literally pray like, God, like, I'm putting my all into this. I'm trying to do the best that I can. And if you no longer want me to fight for this, let me know, because I will back up. Like, I really will. Like, I wasn't in a career field, or am still not in one that is like bad. Like, there's people who are trying to get into to do this, and like moving up, there's good money in it. So I was like, you know, just let me know, let me figure out, and let me remove that desire. But he wouldn't remove it. He would not remove that desire. It would just be like another reminder, like, no, girl, keep going, stop playing. And I don't know what is going on with this camera. So then, goodness, I'm trying to figure out how much of my business I'm trying to tell y'all, bro. But if it's gonna help somebody, I'm gonna just put it out there. I retook those, like the classes that I was telling you guys about at State, and reapplied to like multiple schools. Still nothing, no interview, zero, zip, nada, didn't get it anywhere. And I definitely felt like sad and like defeated almost. And I just like kept praying, like, God, is this what you want me to do? Like, for real. I'm asking you again. I know I'm probably getting on your nerves, God, but like, are you sure? Like, I feel like I heard you right, and I have all these like journal entries and just like, you know, are you sure? But then I was also just like, I did all of this even up to this point. Like, there has to be something else that I can do. Because like, it just would have been a waste. All the sacrifices and stuff was just like, I know this is not in vain. And let me just also say, another way that like would keep me going was like also like volunteering in like clinics, and you know, just doing things that I felt like that brought me joy. And giving for me and like being able to like serve others really does bring me joy. And like, it was just a reminder, just like seeing people like in the clinics that like you know, either like lost their jobs and didn't have health insurance, or, you know, in some of the states such as North Carolina that has an expanded Medicaid, and like all these people that are like in the gap that like don't make enough to be covered by Medicaid, and or make too much to be covered by Medicaid, but also like, you know, don't have health insurance, or are underinsured. And like, so that for me was just like, it was that, and then just like wanting to like fight to be in a position where I am able to also like volunteer and like as a PA, and because the volunteers are what like keep these clinics like open and going. And it would just bring me this like sense of like purpose, I guess, and I would really feel like I was doing God's work. And so I would do that, or like find someone else to shadow. So like, if you're someone who is like struggling to figure out, like, if you get like, you know, you just like you want to give up or like whatever, one, talk to someone else that's like been there. Like, I will drop my information down. Like I told you, my Instagram, like reach out to me, man. I will tell you. I hope I'm not missing anything in this story, but yeah, I would do that, like just to keep me going. So the next thing that I did is when I realized like, okay, once again, didn't get in, no interviews, nothing. So I heard of this program, this Duke Masters of Biomedical Sciences program, that actually my cousin had told me about, because her mentor, which ended up becoming my mentor that I just told you guys about, I think was like teaching it. And so she told her about it because it's a very like science heavy, but could also be for people like, I guess, that want to get into like that public health, or like journalism, or like other things. But honestly, the majority of people in the program was trying to get into some health profession, so like medical school or PA or whatever. So she told me about it like when it, I think a little bit after the program may have only been like maybe a couple years old, I want to say. And I was like, I looked at it, and I looked at the GPA requirement, and I did not have that GPA requirement. And it was a 3.2, I want to say, and I didn't have that. I had a 3.0 GPA, so I'm letting you know that as well. Like I did. And I was like, okay, well, no, that's not happening like at all. So I like let that go. And then after finishing, like I said, taking the classes at State online, and when I applied and didn't get in, I was like, I guess my last option is to attempt to do some master's level program. Because when I reached back out, they were like, yeah, we see that, like I told you, they said we see the upper trend of your grades, but we just need help proving, like seeing that you could, we just don't think you could really succeed in an upper level or master's program. So I was like, well, I'm about to show them that I can. So I'm gonna find some master's program to do. So I go back to this Duke MBS website and was like, looking at it, and the GPA requirement is still the same. And so I ended up emailing the admissions team and was like, kind of just like explaining my story and saying like, you know, what I want to do, where I want to be, and that but my GPA is this, because it was like to the point like you literally could not submit an application if you did not have a certain GPA. Like if you put that number in, it would not allow you to even like submit the application. So I emailed them and they were like, okay, we need you to write like a letter saying why, you know, what happened, blah, 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 and also submit 2 letters. Was it 2 letters? I think it might have been 1 letter of recommendation. I want to say like a letter for someone like from like, I guess like a science professor or someone saying that like they think that you could do the program or whatever. So I reached out to like my old histology and A&P 1 and 2 professor when I retook A&P 1 and 2 and I got A's in them at Meredith, and he wrote the letter for me. And I should probably email him and tell him that I finally got into PA school. Sorry, I just thought about that. I told him that I got into the MBS program, but not PA school. Oh, what was next? So yeah, so I ended up like asking them like, please, like, you know, let me apply and explaining this. And so they were like, it was just crazy. She just kept saying, just to let you know, like, this doesn't guarantee that you will get in and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, girl, I don't care, whatever. And so I ended up getting approved to apply. Oh, it's just so crazy. There is something about just like having that quality time and dedicated time with God and speaking to him and listening regardless of like what it is that you have going on. Because I'm telling y'all, like, there's a difference. Like, I ain't been on my stuff lately and I could feel the difference, but I'm telling you guys, like, it would just be so clear. Like, let me just also say another reason I came back to even apply to the program, because first I was like, there ain't no way. This is before I even submitted the emails to them saying, hey, can you please allow me to apply? Excuse me. At my job. So anyways, there was a patient that we had that was like doing the study, and I ended up asking the person like, oh, what school did they go to and what did they do? And they were in that program that I was gonna apply to. So, and this was literally, y'all, I promise, I kid you not, the night before I had prayed to God about, should I apply? Should I even worry about this? Like, should this be the next step? Is this what I should do? And then the next day, there is this patient who says, this is the program, the exact program that they're in. Listen, like, you just gotta like, it's crazy. So then it was sort of like a last minute like approval thing or something like that. And so I remember like literally still writing essays up until the moment that the application was due at 11:59 p.m. and submitted it. Don't know what typos was in it or anything, but hey, I ended up getting a call. I submitted by the primary deadline, I want to say. Yeah, I did, by the primary deadline. So I ended up hearing back sooner about whether I got in, and they called. There was no wait list. It was nothing. They accepted me into that program. And at first I was kind of like embarrassed to be like, yeah, this and that, which it definitely had a toll going into the program, because I was sort of like, I'm not supposed to be here. Like, you know, and then I had to remind myself that, girl, you a child of God, and if he wants you here, you're supposed to be here, baby. So yeah. Anyway, so then I did that, and I ended up quitting my job and doing this like full time. And even that, let me tell you, going from where like struggles and going into this program where it was like they literally gave us the same material that they gave to the first year medical students, was such a learning curve. Like, crazy. But I'm also very grateful because I feel way more prepared going into PA school. Not that I'm about to go in here and like, well, you never know, I could go in here and like ace everything, we'll see, I don't know. But like, I also could not imagine, and and I'm not saying this should be a route for everyone, but just from like my science background and struggles and things like that, I couldn't imagine going into PA school without this background. Like I feel like I just had this like solid foundation, and I'm really just ready. So anyways, I ended up thinking, oh, I'm gonna go into this program, I'm gonna get all A's, and I'm gonna have this 4.0 GPA, and this is what's gonna get me in. This is what's about to prove that I can be a PA student. I remember like the first week of classes, and I mean, we hit the ground running. Like it wasn't no like let's talk about the syllabus. Like it was like let's get into it. We're starting cadaver dissection, you know, whatever, like let's get it, anatomy, everything. And it was so like overwhelming. And I just remember for like that whole week just being like, was this a mistake? What did I get myself into? What the heck is this? Like, what is happening? And then on, I want to say like that Thursday, we had this class, which was one of my favorite classes. And in the class, like we talked about a lot of just like medicine, and it was always like a presentation, and then like that for like the first hour, and then the second hour you had like small groups that you got into, and every small group had like different facilitators, and there were multiple, like there was like doctors, psychologists, different PhDs, like different like, actually I think the class was called health professions. No, what was something, it had to do with health professions. So anyway, I remember, like I said, just feeling like just crap and like defeated that whole week. Like, this is Duke. Like, there's like people in here that are like geniuses, and all of this, like this is just like, I don't know, I was just like crying. I think we had like a paper due the first week. Like it was just like, whoa, what's happening here? So anyways, but I remember getting to that Thursday, and like I said, the class has all these different like health professionals that are facilitators, and I get into this class, and my facilitator is a PA. And let me just say, there was no other PA. There was a lot of facilitators, and there was no other PA. And I ended up in the group with this PA. Not that it would have made a difference or, you know, whatever, but like, I just felt like there was this sense of like I said, I struggled like that whole week. And let me be clear, that wasn't the only time I was struggling. But when it first started, I was like really going through it. And I remember, I think I got home and like I was like driving home and just like cried, because I felt like it was God just like, no, you're meant to be here. Because y'all, I could have been put in any other group, and that was the one that I ended up in. And she's like the sweetest person ever. It was just a reminder, and just like how just like a nice of a person she was, I was just like, this is like the type of PA that I want to be, and really just like cared. And you could tell she actually gives a darn about like health disparities and, you know, all these things. And so yeah, that was like another just like confirmation. And yeah, so like I said, I thought I was going to finish this program with like a 4.0 GPA, and at this point, that did not happen. I don't know if I'm ready to share exactly what that GPA was, but I'm just telling you, it was not a 4.0. It was the highest one I've ever had. It was definitely above a 3.2. Or was it? I might have been at yeah, I think it was above a 3.2, or at a, I don't know, something like that. So I thought like, okay, like there was a part of me that was just like, okay, well this sucks now, because there's literally just no way. And I remember just like feeling so overwhelmed taking any exam that I would take. It was just this thought of like, this is my only chance. Like I have to like pass, because this is the last thing that I can do that's going to get me accepted into PA school. If I don't, I'm not going to get in. This is it. I think that the reason that I did not end up with the 4.0 GPA was because God also needed me to be reminded that it's him that's doing it. I can do the work, but like, he's the one that's going to do it. And if he does it, or if that's the case, then I'm going to feel like I did it, and I'm going to be the person boasting and not giving God the glory. What is it in like First or Second Corinthians, where he talks about like, it talks about how like God uses the foolish things of the world to shame the wise, and the lowly things, I'm paraphrasing, but like, and the things that are not, to like shame the things that are, or something like that it says. Like pretty much just saying like, you could have a low GPA, you could have not the right amount of money in your bank account, you could have like, you know, like whatever, but when like God is ready, he's gonna move and he's gonna do it, and he's going to get the glory regardless. So anyway, so at this point I was like, all right, bet. I done finished, I got the master's degree. Granted, it wasn't a 4.0 GPA, but I made it through this program, and it was not an easy program at all. And so by God's grace, I made it through. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna apply this like last time, and like, let's just see what happens, God, because at this point I really was like telling God, I know like you sometimes, I mean, it's his way and it's his timing, but I was like, God, I'm actually very tired. Like I've been working towards this for a long time, and I am very tired. And if you want me to go to PA school, it's gonna have to be this time. I'm getting older. Not that age has anything to do with it. Like it would be different if I had just started, but like it had been a while, y'all. I was like, I'm tired and I'm ready to live my life. So I started, to the point that like I showed you guys before, like I had wrote in my prayer journal that I was going, like there's a spot reserved for me at the Duke PA program. I did not know why I said that, because like I said, I was like, why would I say this program, like that program out of all of the programs? And I just remember, like, I don't know if it was because I'm just so like exhausted, but I was just like, I literally just don't feel like applying to schools. Like I'm tired. And so then I was like, you know what, something has to get submitted. Let me finish this CASA application. Finally submitted that. And then I was just like, God, honestly, yeah, not only is it that if you want me to go to PA school, will it be this time? But it's gonna have to be Duke. I wrote here, and I feel like this came from you, not me, because I was fine going anywhere else. So it's gonna have to be Duke as well. So how about this? I am, even though I started and I put money towards some of the other CASLA applications, Duke was the only program that I finished the complete application and put all the, like, paid for the CASLA application and the supplemental application, because then at this point I was like, you know what, I feel like this is also where I am meant to be. I have developed these like relationships. I've worked here. Not that means anything at all, but like I also like now have like my house here, and that wouldn't have prevented me either. Like I could have rented it or sold it, but I feel like God is so intentional with just like everything. And I think that he knew that the way that I get like overwhelmed when it comes to like time to study and like things like that, like that would be a lot for me to handle if I moved somewhere else and still have to deal with like tenants renting out my house, or even just like what I would have to do with like trying to sell before figuring out where else to live would just be like a lot while I'm still like trying to work and get myself together. So yeah, I started to just really just grow and fall in love with Duke, and I was like, that's where I want to go to PA school, and it worked out. I don't know if I missed anything, but like honestly, for real, if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments, or message me on Instagram. Like send me an instant message, a DM. My Instagram is Bindu Renee. So send me that, and I can make like a separate video answering like any other questions that you have, because I feel like I probably left a lot out of here. But overall, I just wanted to share like my testimony, the things that I went through, how I decided what I wanted to do, why I wanted to do it. And I don't even know if I said why, but I don't know, maybe I can put all of this in another video if you leave your questions. But yeah, I hope that this just encourages you, and like to not only like understand that like if God wants you to do something regardless of like what you have, he can make it work, number one. And two, it's important to like hear from God and like be able to just like ignore other people, because there were people who told me along the way like you might want to consider a different career path, because like yeah, like they would even look at the number of times I had applied and retaken the GRE and taking classes and stuff like that. It was just like thinking this is probably not going to work out for you. But I would, like I said, I would sit with God and pray and be like, God, you know, is it not for me, and things like that. And he would just confirm it in different ways. But it was because I was like sitting with him and able to like connect with him, that I could hear his voice. And when I say hear his voice in like different things, whether it be like me, like I said, running into someone at Starbucks or TJ Maxx or whatever, it was just like a reminder. So yeah, I'm really happy about that. So like I said, let me know if you have questions. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.